This is the Happy Hour Network.
Pay attention, son. This is for your own good.
Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook of your choice and a free 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/late night parents and choose from over 180,000 audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/late night parents. That's audibletrial.com/late night parents and get started today. Why Audible? Audible content includes more than 180,000 audio programs from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, entertainers, magazine and newspaper publishers, and business information providers. That's audibletrials.com/late night parents.
And it's great to be back. I got to tell you, for one thing, this is Ted Hicks. Late Night Parents, you can find us on Facebook. You go to Late Night Parents. You can find us on Twitter, typing in Late Night Parent. You can also find me on Twitter at Real Ted Hicks. And you can go to our website, latenightparents.com, and you can find a resource of stories and I guess how-to guides, all the above. We talk about the latest trends, and we meet with game changers in parenting, technology, education, sports, and product reviews. But I couldn't do this without the greatest radio partners in the world. So I wanted to say hello to a few of our, I'm going to stop saying radio partners and start saying media partners. Internet streaming, streaming media is it. That's the basically the new niche. And I couldn't do it without you guys, so I'm going to go through the list rather quick, but UNIR1.us, they're on radio, they're a TV network. Scott Price, lifeimprovementradio.com with Eric Rimmel. I-95 Sports Network with Mr. Bobby Blackjack. NGSC Sports, that also powers us through the iHeartRadio app, Mr. Ralph Garcia. The Under.us, that's the underground. So big shout out to 9-0. XRP Radio in the UK, Tiz Shearer. Arena Sports Network with Brian Snow. We're streaming 24/7 on the 405radio.com and Imagination U Network, Genuinely H5, that's a Blog Talk channel, and our home network is the Happy Hour Network that airs on Blog Talk Radio. So excited to be here, guys. Once again, we got a great lineup tonight this is kind of the episode, we named it Hearts and Minds, in lieu to upcoming Valentine's Day. We hope everyone has done the right thing. I hope you don't wait for Valentine's Day to tell your loved one that, your significant other, that you care about them or that you show that you care about them. That's definitely not the way. You don't wait till once or twice a year. It's not just, Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, where you show that loved one how you feel about them. So along with that, so the host of guests tonight, 5 minutes past the hour, in hour one, we're going 2 hours tonight, but in hour one, we have a president and CEO who's going to be joining us. I think he's in the queue right now. John Incledon from the Hisamitsu America from SalonPas. At 30 minutes past the hour, Dan Soberberg, he's our dad-in-chief. He co-authored a book, Elevator Jones, with his 9-year-old son. In hour number 2, we're going to have the legendary C.S. Keys from the West Coast. He's going to join us, and we're going to talk about the aftermath of the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about the relocation strategies for San Diego and Oakland. Though they might not be going anywhere this year, what about in year 2? We're also going to talk about, we have to talk about Cam Newton. We have to talk about race and therefore race relations. In hour number 2, 30 minutes past the hour, we're going to talk with Rosalyn Ross. You all know her. With Rosalyn, we're going to talk, various topics. Between NBA All-Star Game, we're going to talk a little binge watching. We're going to talk about fitness. And we're going to talk about Valentine's Day best practices. So that is tonight's roll call. It is now 5 minutes past. Before we have our first guest on, I want to say thank you once again to Verizon Fios for supporting the show. Fios New York. We're really excited about the partnership. We want to thank you guys and all the folks that made an effort to make this partnership work. So we definitely want to say thank you. And I guess without further ado, we're going to bring on our first guest of the evening because it's 8:06, 6 minutes past the hour, and I'm 1 minute late. Hello, John. How you doing?
Very good. Good evening, Ted.
How are things? Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Things are good.
That's good. That's good. I got to tell you, I got a story for you. It was right after the holidays. So my wife had asked me, so we have an artificial Christmas tree. And it usually goes up in the attic every, just after, usually around the 1st, but for some reason my wife said, okay, can we get the tree up? And it was December 26th. John, I got to tell you, as I was putting the tree up, I took a spill on the ladder. And the tree was up safely, but I wound up on my back. There's no permanent damage or anything else like that, but I did feel some back pain. And I needed something to subside the pain. And I asked my wife, I said, and this is a shameless plug, but this is actually true. She used the SalonPas pain-relieving jet spray, which was very helpful. So when the opportunity came up this week when I was speaking with the PR team, I was so excited to be able to have the opportunity to get you on. But, John, you're very busy. You're CEO. You're president of Hisamitsu.
Hisamitsu. It's a Japanese company, so Hisamitsu.
Hisamitsu America. So I want to say thanks for taking a few minutes. I got a couple of questions for you because I know you're tight for time. Tell me about the origins of Hisamitsu Pharmaceuticals.
Okay. Well, Ted, first of all, thank you for sharing your story. Wintertime, the way you hurt your back, a little bit unusual, but we get a lot of similar things where people are getting hurt and muscle pain from shoveling driveways and the like. Fortunately, for a lot of folks, it hasn't been a crazy winter weather-wise, but if anybody runs into a problem, we're certainly there as we were for you. Hisamitsu America, actually, Hisamitsu Pharmaceutical Company is our parent company based in Japan, founded in 1847. They're a publicly traded company, do about $1.5 billion in sales. Our primary brand, marketed in some 70 countries around the world, is a brand called SalonPas. And that brand was launched in Japan in 1934, brought to the United States in 1989. Our company really has one mission. We're very singularly focused, and that's to improve the quality of life for pain sufferers through patch. We call this salonopathy. I don't know, Ted, if your listeners ever wondered how medicine was administered back in the early 1800s, but the CEO of our company, I'm talking our parent company in Japan now, built a public medical museum in Tosu, Japan. And the museum actually walks you through the history of the development of medicine and the administration of medicine. And way back in the early 1800s, at least in Japan, medicine was carried in backpacks by the precursor to pharmacists who literally went from town to town and administered the medicine right there on the spot, compounding it, developing poultices, which are actually a precursor to what we call patches today.
Excellent, John. I got to tell you, I mean, it's an easy question for me, but the question I have from some of our listeners, why should consumers choose SalonPas?
I think that comes down to three things that I kind of think would be important to consumers. First is the quality of what they're buying. The second is the value of what they're buying, and the third is really what's the mission of the company and how reliable are they in delivering that mission. The quality of our products, scientifically speaking now, are world-renowned. I myself have fielded phone calls from European pharmaceutical companies that are interested in getting in touch with our R&D team in Japan because we're basically known as the world's leaders in hydrogel patch technology. And it's not just that technology. It's over the course of 170 years of marketing and manufacturing patches, you learn that even little things can mean a lot to consumers. I mean, a couple of quick examples are, that latex is something people are allergic to, so you want to avoid where you can having latex in the patches. Things like having rounded corners on patches. Believe it or not, there's a difference in the rate of peeling when you have a patch that has square corners versus a patch that has rounded corners. So from a lot of experience and I think we've really developed and have a reputation for being really the quality manufacturer of patch technology. From a vantage point, and by the way, one other point that maybe your listeners might be interested in is the Japanese have developed a business concept, and I know it's taught in a number of business schools in the United States. It's this concept of Kaizen, which basically means continuous improvement. And I know our company is routinely updating our products. Right now, we're in the process of replacing best-selling patch item in the United States with a new and improved version. That's because of our focus on salonopathy, which, again, is to give the consumer the best possible pain management experience we can. From a value standpoint, because that was really the second reason I think folks may want to choose our brand, we do have a range of products, but at the end I would call a very good product. You really get a great value there. You can basically, the patch at retail is going to be about 18 cents, and I think when you compare that with, let's say, a couple of Advil in a 24-count bottle, that cost compares very, very favorably. At the other end, we do have some very premium technologies that have different formulations, different size patches, and different patch materials, and they can retail upwards of $1 to $1.20 a patch. And I guess finally, I would reiterate the fact that our mission is really singular focused. It's that idea of salonopathy, which is to improve the quality of life for people in pain through patch.
John, thank you so much for that thorough answer. I guess my next question is, and I'll start off with a statement. Pain relief patches are not new because I've heard of Tiger Balm and Icy Hot and Binge. I mean, you have all these different brands and competitors out there. But how is SalonPas the only FDA patch that's currently out there?
Yeah, Ted, I actually get this question a lot, and most Americans, I think, are unaware that the United States is one of the only countries that does not pre-approve every drug. In the early 1970s, the Food and Drug Administration published drug monographs, OTC, drug monographs, and this was an attempt to not have to review everything and to distill it to, let's consider a monograph a cookbook. So the monographs contain the recipe for different OTC drugs, and it prescribes the exact labeling you need on the box, the dose of the product, the active pharmaceutical ingredient, and the levels that are going to be in that product. You and I, Ted, could go to business tomorrow making our own version of Tylenol if we found a current good manufacturing practicing manufacturing facility, a CGMP facility. As long as our product conformed to that monograph and we labeled it as such, we could go to business tomorrow and we don't have to have the FDA approve our product because we stayed within the monograph. The reason SalonPas is the first FDA-approved topical NSAID OTC, that's because there's another pathway. Most people don't use that pathway because it's a lot of time and expense, and that's the FDA's new drug application process. We worked for 7 years to get FDA approval, and finally in 2008 we did. So we are, in fact, the first topical NSAID approved OTC. Why would we do that? And just to give you a feel for cost, the filing fee for an NDA is currently $1.2 million. And when you pay that fee, that's a user fee. That's so that the employees of the FDA, their cost for reviewing your data is covered. And that gets reviewed by Congress every few years, and the cost keeps going up. So we paid a user fee of $1.2 million on top of all the clinical work we did. And when you pay a user fee, you get a 10-month review. That doesn't guarantee you're going to be approved. You just get feedback. And ultimately, as I say, in 2008, we came on the market. But when you do an NDA, you're operating outside that cookbook, outside that monograph. And what that gave us was two unique claims within the entire category. One is the fact that we were able to clinically support that our product works up to 12 hours. So there is a duration claim benefit there for consumers. The second, and maybe more important, every OTC pain drug in the U.S., and I'm talking including systemic drugs, Advil, Aleve, Tylenol, they are all indicated to treat only minor or mild pain. We're the only product, because we did clinical studies in tough or moderate pain, that when you look at the drug facts on the back of our box, we're the only product indicated to treat both mild as well as tougher, moderate pain. So we did all the clinical work. We paid the filing fee. It took us 7 years, but this is why we're different than what you find in the rest of the marketplace.
John, as thorough as can be. I mean, I have a huge smile on my face right now because, I mean, oh my goodness, excellent. So I want to let the folks know that we're speaking with John Incledon, the president and CEO of. Hang on 1 second. And excuse me 1 second, I lost my train of thought. The makers of the SalonPas relief product. John, there's a great blog that's on your website, and it talks about consumers overuse over-the-counter pain pills and, you know, the alternate topical treatment that's overlooked. And you really went into that in your last answer. But the question I have for you is, so, you know, nowadays people are concerned. Everyone's an educated consumer about what they're putting into their bodies. And one question I have to ask you, does SalonPas contain any type of steroids?
I can tell you, Ted, I'm pleased to tell you that in fact we do not contain any steroids whatsoever.
Perfect. Like I said, I know you are short for time, but one question I had to ask you, well, two final questions. One that's off the topic is, so we had Super Bowl 50 this past Sunday. You had kind of new school and old school with Peyton Manning and Cam Newton. I wanted to know, which team were you rooting for, or are you not a fan of either team?
Well, you know, I heard your opening where you were talking about the fact you're going to talk about the relocation, I guess, of San Diego and Oakland, or the potential for that. You know, I've been a long-suffering St. Louis Ram fan. I mean, I followed them when they were in Los Angeles. So I wasn't particularly fond of either, or I didn't really have a favorite in that Super Bowl. However, what I would say is that, you know, just like you hear some of the voters in the primary saying that they're kind of tiring of names like Bush and Clinton, I was kind of tiring of the Manning name. You know, he's been around, he's been in the media, you know, and so I was looking maybe for a fresh team to come in and win maybe their first Super Bowl and generate some excitement that way. So if I was leaning anyway, it was towards the Panthers, and I guess as an added reason, I've got a son that's Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, which is, of course, is in North Carolina.
Of course. Well, like I said, the one good thing about the Panthers, yes, they lost the game, and I'm going to go into it later in segment 3. They're going to be around for a very long time because they appear to have a pretty young nucleus. So I expect them to be up there challenging in the next 3 to 4 years. Another question, easy question for you, as we get ready to close you out. Where can we find SalonPas?
Well, we've got pretty good distribution in your food and drug retailers across the country. We're in mass retailers like Walmart. You can even find us in Costco and also Dollar General and Family Dollar. So we're in a lot of outlets, and I guess I would close out, first by saying thank you so much, Ted, for taking the time to speak with me. But also for anybody that's out there in pain, consider some of the things we talked about. Some of the risks, if you're using a lot of pain pills, it's not a zero-sum game. I don't have to take only pills or only patches. Good medicine and good pain management may involve using both products in a therapeutic form, both for your safety but also for your relief.
John, we want to give you a round of applause. You shot the ball. You scored. The crowd went wild. You hit a grand slam, John. I want to thank you for taking the time out this evening to speak with our listeners here on Late Night Parents. The podcast will be your specific section of the podcast will be up by early tomorrow, and I'll send that off to your team. But I really do appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your evening to reach out to us on the East Coast. So thanks again.
Thank you so much, Ted, and good night, everybody. I appreciate it.
And that was John Incledon from Hisamitsu America, Hisamitsu Pharmaceutical Company. And they are the parent, I guess, the parent company of SalonPas. So that was pretty cool to have a CEO and president, Japanese company. John oversees the American unit, the unit in the Americas. So really, really excited to have John here. Really quick, want to go in, and there was an article I wanted to bring up because it was about, one second. It was about dating the grown-up way. 4 reasons going courting is even more romantic when you're over 40. And the 4 ways. So there's 4 reasons why dating is more rewarding among the older set. Reason 1 is a man who is experienced with women should be less anxious or competitive. He's likely to be more at ease and could focus on his romantic partner as a person. Item number 2 is mature people have spent time traveling, seeking out adventures, and becoming educated. They have memories and feelings to share about their experiences and can converse about a much wider range of topics than the plot twist in the latest, Star Wars movie. Although they possibly can discuss that too. Reason number 3. A woman who's been married or involved is likely to know how to entertain because she's had the opportunity to play hostess probably many times over. If you're lucky, she may even cook. Reason number 4. Mature people know how to speak in an affectionate sentences longer than LOL. Don't you just hate the LOL on, with texting nowadays? They are also more accustomed to working for what they want, which includes showing you a good time. They say youth is wasted on the young, and sometimes maybe romance is too. Certainly, young love is wonderful, but romance for older folks can be even better. I just read you an excerpt from Dating Up the Grown-Up Way. It's by Barbara Foster, who's a women's studies professor and the author of Confessions of a Librarian, a memoir of loves. So wanted to briefly talk about that. Also, to let you guys know, like I said, we've got various guests scheduled here tonight. There's been so much going on. There's been primaries going on. There's people dropping out of the primaries. This is not a political show. This is not a sports show. This is not a tech show. Sometimes we're not even a parenting show. This is not a product review show, even though we were just discussing a specific product and I was putting forth those shameless plugs. We're a little bit all the above. Real quick, I will go to a real brief break, and I'll be back in 45 seconds.
Check this out. This is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents, and we wanted to let you know about Black History Month. February is Black History Month, but we like to say every single month is Black History Month. We should recognize the rich culture and heritage of Black people, and although the battles have not been won yet, we should be proud to take some time out this month to explore the powerful and victorious lineage of our people. That's right, so don't be a vulture and learn about your culture. Late Night Parents salutes the history of Black people and the history that we have yet to make. That's right, and it's not a mistake. Now back to the live show.
And we're back. Wanted to give a plug. It's Black History Month. There's so much going on. I would say within the last 18 months, even longer than that, we sit and we talk about, there's specific hot topics going on out there, and race is always one. Race is a topic we talk about on our Saturday show, Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue. But we talk about it in when it's appropriate. Just putting it out there. Like later on tonight, we're going to be talking about Cam Newton. We're going to talk about some of the hate when certain terms are mentioned, like, oh, he's a thug, he's this, he's that. It's good to air things out every once in a while. Everyone might not be happy. Some of our people that listen to the show, some of the sponsors that listen to the show might not be happy, but sometimes you do have to talk about it, because that's the only thing. When we have these open discussions, it's going to be the only thing. And not just an open discussion on this show, but all over. So that some of these stereotypes. And it's not just with African Americans. It's with every race. It's with LGBT. I like to say I'm proud of this show because we've spoken with everyone. The last, I would say, year and a half that we've been on the air, we've opened all doors. We've talked with people. Next couple of upcoming weeks, we're going to talk with a topic that I had to run by management. The topic I ran by management was talking about prisons and education. And we were talking about, and I just wanted to be okay with that. I wanted to know how everyone felt about, hey, if someone's incarcerated, and how would they feel about that person that's incarcerated, who supposedly is supposed to be rehabilitated, is also actually trying to obtain a degree. So, we spare no topic here at all. But the one question I had, or the one topic that I had, was for You know what? I can't even talk about this right now because I think we have someone else in the queue. It's 8:30, but hopefully we'll get back to this later tonight because the topic is when convicts go to college. Higher education in prison is a good deal for everyone. And this topic is a hot topic because, and I'll spend just one quick minute on it, because America as a whole spends $80 billion a year keeping criminals behind bars. But research has shown that the cost can be reduced by making one thing more accessible to inmates, education. So hopefully tonight we'll be able to get back to this topic. If not, it's understood. I believe we have our dad in chief on the line, Dad from Dad's Time Out, from Elevator Jones, Dan Soberberg on the line right now. Dan, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thanks for joining us tonight. I know you and I, we met through Twitter, and
yep.
There was a request for you to come onto the show, and number one, I always support, with me, Dad, myself, I always want to make an effort to get out there and support the other dads and dad bloggers that are out there. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, and it's very much appreciated. Thanks for getting back to me on Twitter and helping me, do a little book promotion and talk a little bit about what my son and I worked on together.
Definitely. And I'm going to probably work with you behind the scenes because I definitely want to get a copy of Elevator Jones, but we'll get to that later on.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. Yep.
But I wanted to talk with you because, it's very exciting. You co-authored a children's book, the first of a series, the Elevator Jones series, with your 9-year-old son. So got to ask you, how was that? How did you come about with that idea?
Well, it's funny. We, a couple of years ago, I had been talking to my wife about how I wanted to write a children's book. I've been blogging for years on, fatherhood topics and sports and cars and, typical guy kind of stuff. And I had, we were taking a long car ride somewhere. I talked about how I wanted to write a children's book. And she was like, well, you should do it. And it was one of those things where it was sort of like, yeah, maybe one of these days I'll get to it. And finally, a couple of years went by. My kids got a little bit older. My son, was learning to read and getting interested in books himself. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And I took a class in New York, one of the Gothic writing workshops on children's writing. Came home, wrote a story that had been sort of bouncing around in my head for a few years, and the kids loved it. And my son, who was probably 7.5 at the time, asked if we could write a book together. And I was like, yeah, that would be terrific. So it gave us an opportunity to work together, and it gave me a chance to, instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to write this children's story and that's the end of it, it made it into sort of a fun little hobby that we could work on together. So that's sort of how it started. Just sort of an innocent question from a first grader, or he might have been at the start of second grade by that time, and he came up with a character name. He thought Elevator Jones was a good name for a character, and I said, I think there's a lot of things we could do with somebody named Elevator Jones, and we sort of crafted the story around the name of the character. So we knew the name of the character before we had any idea what it was that he was going to be doing.
Hey, Dan, I'm here. I'm sitting here talking to you, and I had the mute button on because I just wanted to make sure you came through as clear as possible. So I'm sorry about
that's okay. That. I want to make sure I didn't lose you.
Oh, yeah, no, you didn't lose me. So I got to tell you this. Before we, and totally get into the thought process for the book and everything else like this. So your dad of, how many kids do you have?
2 kids. I have a 9-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl.
Okay, cool. No, so now your 6-year-old girl, maybe she's too young, because I'm going to say there has to be, with you writing a book or co-authoring a book with your son, what do you plan to do with your daughter?
Well, it's funny because her and I actually tonight were working on her story. So after my son and I, wrote our book and we published it, she said she came to me on her own when she was only 5 at the time. Hadn't even started first grade, and she came to me and she said, "When are we going to write my book?"
Of course.
And I said, "As soon as you want to. When do you want to start?" So that was really cool. As much fun as my son and I had working on our book and starting on the sequel to it now, having a 5-year-old come to you and tell you that
that's great.
She wanted to work on her book was really cool.
What is Mom's take about this? About watching you and your son bond together like this?
Well, she loves it. She's been supportive. We've been married for 12 years now, and she's always been very supportive of me. I'm very busy. Like, I'm always doing something. So if I'm not, I work full time, but then I'm like writing blogs and writing articles and teaching classes and developing classes and online courses, and I'm always doing something. So I think she thinks it's funny that I'm like busy all the time, but she's always very supportive. She was very proud of the work that we did together, and I think extremely proud of the way my son responded to having the book published. Because he was out there sort of promoting it. He was telling people, hey, we finished our book. You want to read the book? We've done a couple of book signings. So it's been sort of a way to, empower him and give him something that's his own. And he's also we've put some money to the side, some of the proceeds from the book, to donate to charity. And he chose the Children's Home of York. We live in York, Pennsylvania, and it's a local foster home. And so we've been in contact with them. In a few weeks, we're going to put together some duffel bags full of toiletries and journals and pens and pencils and some books, and take it to the kids some of the foster kids that don't have things of their own when they get placed in a new home. So that's something that came out of this too. So it gives him a chance to to be charitable. So everything it's all positive, and I think she's just proud. She's just proud of the work that we're doing, and she's extremely supportive of it.
That's excellent. That's excellent. As long as I tell you this much, there's no roadblocks you can run into when that foundation is set up at home, and you guys are supportive of each other, and she's supportive of your endeavors or initiatives that you're putting forward. And what's also key, what I've picked up from this conversation, is that you are also at the same time, your son, with him being 9, because my son is 8, and you're not starting, but you're teaching him some, core values of, hey, we're going to take, some of the proceeds and we're going to donate it here. And having his input on, hey, this is where we should, donate this to, because, some of these kids aren't as privileged as I am. You're doing definitely an excellent job with that. I guess my next question is, and for some reason, wives do find it funny when you're working, you're blogging, you're doing podcasts, you're doing this, you're doing that, and it's I guess for our end, it's never enough. because
Right.
it really is never enough, because you're sitting there, and I look at a lot of this that we do is, I mean, I hate to put us in a box and call us dad bloggers, but we're really more about networking. We're really more about networking.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it.
So do you? I gotta ask you this much: do you go to any dad blogger like conventions? Like, do you go to there's Dad Blogger 2.0 coming up? Dad 2.0 coming up.
Yeah, I actually haven't in the past. I've thought about, I'm not terribly active on Twitter and Facebook. I post my stuff up there, but I don't. I'm not as interactive probably as I should be, and I've looked at some of those things that haven't been spurred to action yet.
Okay, I mean that's fair. That's fair. So you mentioned you were blogging for years. How many years were you blogging for?
Let's see. Probably. Well, my daughter's 6. I'm 6.5 now. So I think the first blog post I wrote was the night before she was born. So about 6.5 years, and that was mostly done, sort of out of a nervous energy. And my wife was 2 weeks past due with her. She was holding out for a natural birth after having a C-section with our son, and our daughter was not cooperating. And the doctor was like, "Look, we can't push this any longer. She's got to come out." And that was our first indication of our daughter's strong will and stubbornness.
Yes.
And I think just sort of out of a nervous energy, I started writing. I just wrote a blog that had nothing to do with what I was going through. It was a sports blog. It was I grew up a Baltimore Orioles fan, so it was a sports blog about something the Orioles did. It was the middle of August, and I fired off a blog and posted it to a local sports website that let fans post content, and that was really the first one I had done. And it was probably really the first thing I'd written I did a lot of writing during college and wrote a couple of screenplays shortly after college. It was probably the first thing I'd actually written in 10 years.
Okay.
And it sort of got back into me. It made me remember how much I enjoyed writing, how I used that as a stress reliever. And that's sort of how I got started back into doing that stuff. And 6 years later, still doing it. There's a website based out of Baltimore called Splice Today that I've written a sports column for twice a week for the past 5.5 years.
Wow.
And they're terrific. And they're terrific. They generally let me write whatever I want. And every now and then the editor might push me in one direction or another, but usually not. And when I say every now and then, I mean maybe 3 times in 5.5 years. He's said, "Hey, why don't you write something about this?" So that's been it. That was sort of a great relationship that I just sort of stumbled on, and that's sort of how I got started. And I think that the children's writing sort of came out of that.
Okay.
The blogging is fun. It's fun, but there isn't a whole lot of meaning behind writing an opinion piece about, a trade that went down 2 days ago or something. It can be fun, and it's certainly a stress reliever for myself. So personally, it's beneficial, but there isn't a whole lot of intrinsic value, or long-term value out of writing that sort of content. So I think that's when I started thinking about writing for children, because I knew that it could be more impactful, to get readers when they're young or before they're even readers. To try to get them interested in books and stories and creating their own stories and that sort of a thing.
I got to tell you, so I like to say this is the primary show I sit on, because I host it by myself. podcast that I host by myself. But on Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, I do a podcast called Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue with two of the roughest, toughest, fill in the blank co-hosts, and we talk, and it's great because sometimes, and I'm not, I mean, that's what I'm kind of picking up, Dan, from this conversation is we can talk about parenting, we can talk about our children, we can talk about some of these products that are pushed towards us, that people are asking us, hey, can you write about this? And then there's the side of me that I talk about the sport that I love. I write about the sport that I love. I spend a lot of time, primarily at Citi Field as a Mets fan. I'm proud to say that. I guess all the other years I was an apologist up until last year when,
Yeah, you got plenty to be proud of this year. Right.
And, we tend to, we started to go around the country and, visit different ballparks and, kind of enjoy life. And we talk about it on our baseball podcast, along with talking about food and talking about beers. But it's just that mix of having those two different shows where I can sit and be goofy Saturday when I guess Wednesday night I'm sitting here and we're going to have this serious conversation and we're going to talk about Elevator Jones and how it's impacted your life. And, come on. It's good to let down your hair from time to time and do different things. So I think that's part of the reason why, you blog, you do this, you interact, you network with different folks, because it's just, that's the type of people we are, and it was not a shot at any of the PR people, but I got to tell you, Dan, a lot of times, they push stuff your way saying, hey, can you do X, Y, Z? And you're just like, geez. Let me check out the product first. Let me see if it's worthwhile. So I'm not sure if you're going down the route of, being that dad blogger, but it's interesting. It's interesting, and there's a lot of opportunity.
The blog for me, honestly, the Dad's Time Out blog that I have is it's really almost more of a repository of different things that I've written for different places. So, I certainly post original content there multiple times per week, but it's usually something that's appeared somewhere else. So that website usually just has a lot of links to other places. I've done a couple interviews for the book, so I'll post the link to the book to that interview or article on the website. Everything, all the sports content and stuff that I write for Splice Today, ends up on Dad's Time Out as a link. And people can get to it through there. So that's really what the blog exists for now. There was a few years ago, 3 years ago actually, I tore my Achilles tendon, and I couldn't drive to work. I live in York and work in Baltimore, so I couldn't drive the 50-mile each way commute with a torn right Achilles. So I was on medical leave for about 11 weeks. And, it was either like, well, watch Netflix and go stir crazy, or figure out something productive to do with my time.
Right.
And that's actually when I started the blog. And when I did first start it, I did a lot more like review type things, and I used to post a lot of recipes and stuff like that. And I haven't done that stuff in a while, and I probably should, just to, diversify the content a little bit. But, life catches up to you, and there's piano lessons and soccer practice and Cub Scouts and book signings and all those kind of things. And it takes away a little bit of time.
Basketball and cheerleading and you name it, volleyball, and you're in the car and you're driving back and forth and that long and windy road, But I think one question I had for you before we wrap up The question was about your book. I know you've written several books, and I know this is a series that you're writing. Tell us about. Could you share with us the publishing process? Was it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So we started writing the book. My son was, when he said I want to write a book, I thought he meant like he wanted to write a story, and we started writing the book, or started writing the story, and he was like, no, I want this to be a book, like that we can sell to people. And I was like, oh, like that sort of, and in my head I'm thinking, well, that changed a lot of things. We're not just writing a story for ourselves. Now I have to figure out, like, how do I get the story published? Is it good enough? Is it a good enough story to get published? Like, what's this process? So I talked to one of my Splice Today editors who has published a couple of books, and she gave me some pointers and gave me places to find names of literary agents and things like that. And I've sent out probably about 35 query letters. And this was for the first book I wrote, which is called Buckley the Toothless Beaver, which is kind of self-explanatory. But the first story I wrote, I sent out about 35 letters and probably got 10 responses. All of them were positive, like they liked the idea, they liked the story, they liked the character, but nobody was going to publish it. It was, one reason or another. They were a small publishing house. They don't do children's books anymore. Various different things. So I self-published that book through CreateSpace, which is Amazon's self-publishing platform. And the reason I got to CreateSpace was because I have a friend who's self-published a number of books through Amazon. And these are more like adult romance novel type things. And she gave me a lot of information about CreateSpace and was like, look, this is the simplest thing to do. It doesn't cost you anything out of pocket. There's no minimum books you need to buy. Try it out. So that's what I did. It was remarkably easy to use. I would say the Buckley the Toothless Beaver book, I was able to basically get the book formatted the way I needed to in less than an hour. I ordered a proof copy, and within a week I had a hard copy of the book in my hand. Said, okay, it's good. I log back into the website, hit approve. It immediately kicks you over to another page where it asks you if you want to make the book available on Kindle. You say yes, and that's pretty much it. The book is then available on Creates.com, on Amazon.com, and available as a Kindle download. So that's how we arrived at the self-publishing process. I knew that I had a book that I had written with an 8-year-old, and I didn't want to spend 3 or 4 years sending query letters out to agents and publishers trying to get the thing published, and publish a book for second graders when he's in 7th grade. That didn't make a lot of sense, wasn't very appealing to me. So, and that wasn't really the point of the project for us. The point of the project was that we were going to work together, we were going to create a story, and we were going to publish the book, and that's what we did. So for anybody that's looking to self-publish, I can't recommend CreateSpace enough, and the Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing program was terrific.
Totally. And I mean this in a productive way. Dan, Amazon is putting people out of business because they're doing it the right way. And, you're not chasing your tail. You're not running around doing this, like you said, sending out letters versus, hey, here's the way to do it. You're going to do it. We could push it through, and there's no issues. So
right, and it's really, and I understand, the Amazon thing can be, controversial to some people, but it depends on what your aim is. What are you trying to accomplish? I'm an IT professional and adjunct professor. That's how I make money. I don't make money from writing children's books. So we wrote a book together because it was a fun project, and we'd like as many people to read it as possible. But for us, the process was the fun part, not. That's right. We don't do it for money. My son just chimed in and said we don't do it for money. So that really wasn't the point for us. The point was that we were writing a story and we were creating something that we could share with people. If your aim is to sell 20,000 copies of your children's story, there are obviously other ways you should probably go. But that, obviously it's not what we were trying to accomplish. We wanted to make a book and share it with people and make it available as quickly and as cheaply as possible. So that's what we did.
Right. Dan, we're getting ready to close you out. I want to ask you, and this is your opportunity to plug your product, plug your book, plug, your various websites that you write for. Best ways to get in. I know you might not be on Twitter and Facebook a lot, but best ways to get in contact with you. And as I mentioned before, tell us about how to purchase the book and all the above.
Yep. So the book is available on Amazon. That's the easiest way to get it. It's available for in a hard copy or in Kindle. And the book is called Elevator Jones. It's the story of a second grader named Henry Jones. He lives in the Grand Excelsior Hotel with his parents who work at the hotel. And the hotel has a magical elevator, and it allows Henry and his friend Horatio, the elevator operator, to travel through time, solve problems. And the first book deals with a bullying issue that Henry sort of inadvertently solves through the use of the elevator. And we're working on a follow-up book that hopefully will be available in the next 4 or 5 months. You can follow me on Twitter at Dad's Time Out, and Dad's Time Out is also the name of our website. So if you're looking for the blog, it's dadstimeout.tumblr.com. I also have a Facebook page, so if you're on Facebook, my Facebook page is Dan Soberberg Author, where you can see some updates for some local book signings and things that we have coming up. So,
Dan, thank you so much. I want to give you a round of applause.
Thanks.
And we're definitely going to stay in touch, Dan, because you hit upon one thing that there's several things we have in common besides dad blogging and everything else, talking about our kids and all. But we're both IT professionals. So I definitely
I didn't even know that.
I would definitely want to sit and chat with you because about 18
well, that sounds
years.
Good.
Yeah, definitely. But it was a pleasure to have you on. This is the first time. This won't be the last, because when the next in the series of Elevator Jones comes out, definitely want to have you come through and promote the book and just as you do your books, I want you to be able as your forum. So I want to say thank you once again.
Well, thank you very much. It was a lot of fun. I can't wait to do it again. Thanks for the opportunity.
No problem. Take care. And that was Dan Soberberg. I like to say our dad in chief, but he's Dad's Time Out. He's co-authored a children's book, Elevator Jones, the first one in the series with his 9-year-old son. And that is the end of Hour 1. Hour 2 is getting ready to start right now. And we are back. For some of you, this is hour one. For some others, this is hour two. This is Late Night Parents. This is Ted Hicks. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, under Late Night Parent. You can find me on Twitter as The Real Ted Hicks. Our website, latenightparent.com. As we usually do on, at the start of most of our shows, we want to shout out our radio partners, UNR1, Life Improvement, I-95 Sports Network, NGSC Sports, the Under.us, that's the Underground with 9-0, XRP Radio in the UK, the 405 Radio, Arena Sports Network, Imagination U, and more importantly, we have our home is the Happy Hour Network. So tonight is a 2-hour show. I like to say show. A lot of people say podcast, and I kind of have to check myself. But we're kind of splitting this one up. In hour one, we had John Incledon from Hisamitsu America, the parent company of SalonPas. We had Dan Soberberg, Dad's Timeout. He co-authored the book Elevator Jones with his 9-year-old son. But hour two, it's going to be a little bit different. It might be a little bit edgy. So we want you to sit back and enjoy yourself, because we have two great guests coming up for this show. We're going to have none other than the legendary C.S. Keys is going to be joining us in the next 90 seconds. We're going to be talking about the Super Bowl or the aftermath of the Super Bowl and a whole range of topics. And then at 30 minutes past the hour, we're going to have Rosalyn Ross joining us to talk about the All-Star Game. We're going to talk about a little bit of fitness, binge watching, and Valentine's Day. You guys do know, Valentine's Day is coming up. Don't come home empty-handed Sunday. You better do something. And for those of you that are single, hey, it's a great day to be out there. You could find Mr. and Mrs. Right. Keep your head up and keep looking. But without further ado, we're going to bring on Broham number one, Mr. Broham number one, C.S. Keys. I like to say the legendary C.S. Keys. Because, behind
what's going on with you, Ted? What's going on with you, baby?
What's up, brother? It's good to have you on, man. It's hour one, I had, some corporate people on and people talking about their children's book, and I said, when is CS coming on? And I kept looking at the clock.
Well, now it's going to be a different kind of party.
It's going to be a different kind of party. Like I said, I was laid back, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay. But always, you are a friend to the room. CS, let's just get into it. The Super Bowl happened on Sunday. I mean, me personally, I'm an offensive guy. So if you're a defensive guy, you love that Super Bowl. I can't say I loved it. I was kind of falling asleep, but I would tell you this much. On the edges, you had Ware, and you had my other guy. I can't
Von
remember
Miller.
Oh, mm-hmm. Von Miller. Miller on the edges, and they were pulverizing our guy, Cam Newton.
Well,
what's your thoughts
if you notice what happened the week before in New England, they just ate Tom Brady up because that offensive line in New England couldn't handle him, and eventually they ended up getting the offensive line coach fired in New England.
Yes.
And the Chargers actually picked him up, which we'll get into that later. But as far as the Super Bowl is concerned, you're right. It was a defensive game. I played on the defensive side of the ball, so to me it was a good game because it was just hitting you in the mouth left and right. But there was a couple of mistakes that were happening because Denver actually allowed Carolina to stay in the game because when you drive down the field and you only settle for field goals instead of touchdowns,
right.
And I said that's going to be an Achilles heel for Denver, but eventually Denver pulled it out because Carolina didn't capitalize on their opportunities.
Was it the case that Bum Phillips is the greatest defensive coordinator? I mean, we all know about the great Bum Phillips. I mean, excuse me, Wade. I'm getting all names screwed up tonight. Wade
that's
Phillips.
His son. It's still in the same family.
Yeah, son of Bum. Right. All right. But Wade Phillips, I mean, is he the greatest DC ever? Or
you would have to. You would have to argue that with Buddy Ryan, because
yes.
I mean, Buddy Ryan, what he developed in the 4-6 defense in Chicago, and what he did as a head coach in Philadelphia with their defense, it can't be questioned. Even when he was in Arizona, he still did the defense up. So you could have the argument with him and Buddy Ryan. But Wade Phillips, what he did in the second half of the year with Denver, it just can't be questioned. And then what you saw on the field, and really you got to give credit to John Elway too, because after they got embarrassed 2 years ago by Seattle, he said, look, we got to get strong on defense, because they straight got bitch slapped by Seattle on the defensive side of the ball. So he went out, he got Ware, he got T.J. Ward, he got to kill Alib. And really, Alib almost lost it. He had 3 different penalties in that game that he could look like he was about to go Johnny Manziel on everybody out there. But then he got it back together, and the next thing you know, they're holding Carolina down. They're rushing Cam Newton. Cam Newton has never seen a defense like that all year long, and they just did what they had to do. You got to give Denver credit.
So, CS, I'm jumping around here. There's a couple of things I want to say to you. Okay, So Cam Newton is getting beat up, not only in the game, but by, media for not, number one, I mean, that post-game, whatever you want to call it, was horrendous. But, okay, so he's been getting beat up all game. He had the opportunity to go for that fumble, and he said it was a business decision. CS.
I understand where he's coming from. He said that, and if you look at it a couple times, I looked at the tape a couple times, he was saying how his leg was torqued in a different way, which it was. It was straight up and down. And the only thing I can equate this to is Drew Brees in the last game of the season with the San Diego Chargers, when he went for a fumble and dislocated his shoulder. That was the catalyst of getting him out of San Diego. So I can understand where Cam is coming from, that his body was contorted in a way where if he went for the ball, he may have injured his knee. I get that. But like he said, and I give him credit for this, that fumble isn't why they lost the game. Even though they were still in the game at 16-10, at that point it was still winnable for them. That fumble isn't why they lost the game. However, I think the thing with Cam, especially getting bombasted in the media, is not just the fumble, but the way he acted afterwards in the press conference. And what people need to realize is that there was only a couple curtains separating the Carolina Panthers and the Denver Broncos, and you can hear a lot of the Broncos on the other side doing interviews, excited as they should be because they just won the Super Bowl, and it just got to Cam. He started hearing some of the comments, and then some of the questions that the reporters were asking him were straight ass. I mean, if you're going to ask a question, ask something that's meaningful. So it got on his nerves, but he needs to realize he can't act like that. He acted like a little baby. He acted like a little kid. I'm going to take my ball home because y'all won't play with me. You can't do that. Russell Wilson last year was 1 yard away from getting his second Super Bowl ring through an interception. He stood there after the game, answered for 40 minutes, answered every question like a professional. Cam, it was a bad look on him. You just got voted MVP of the league. You're just about to be the face of the league. You got advertisers out the butt, and I'm sure a couple of his representatives, or I should call them handlers, came to him later and said, look, you can't do this. You got guys right now paying you money to advertise their products, yogurt, and all this other kind of stuff. If you're going to be Superman, you can't be super bitch later on when you start crying. Face up to it.
CS, you had so many great points. I'm going to say this much. Peyton Manning, $12 billion in endorsements. Cam Newton, $11 million in endorsements. So he's right there. Like you said, face of the NFL, he's the MVP. He's going to be on Madden again. He's that guy. So, yes, you're not going – I mean, and I think the main thing here is when you look at the mainstream media and he's dabbing from week one, they're taking pictures before the games are even over, team pictures. They've got baseball bats out there. They've got all different types of distractions going on out there. And when the goings are good, everyone's out there smiling and cheesing and living it up. But when things go bad, it's something else. It goes back to the old Cam from a few years ago.
Now, he's always been like this. It was brought to my attention that even in college, he was like this. Now, the comments he made this week talking about he's always been a sore loser, and if you don't mind, if you enjoy losing, then you are a loser. I get that. You are a loser. But the thing about the dabbing and all that, to be honest with you, like Ron Rivera said, those guys have been doing that for the last 3-4 years. It's just that when you start the season at 14-0, now you got a whole bunch of eyeballs on you. You got so many people looking at you. So many people nationally haven't seen that. So they look at it as happening just now. They've been doing that for the last 3 or 4 years, but now people are looking at them. And they'll continue to do that. Right. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing wrong with that. It's personality. It's expressing themselves. And for a head coach like Ron Rivera, he goes ahead and encourages that because he was on the 85 Bears team who had more personalities than anybody that you know.
That's true. We gotta touch we have to touch race, and I guess we have to touch race because we're both African American. We've seen the flip side to it. We've seen Johnny Manziel spin out of control, and yes, the media is getting at him, but to a much lesser degree than Cam not answering questions, and we're seeing him totally torn apart by the media. And for some reason, you got so many different people say, "Oh, it's not about race." It's always about race.
It always is. Yes, it is.
The question I have for you is, Cam's actions after the game, did that set the black quarterback back?
I don't know if it set the black quarterback back because you can't take away his accomplishments this year. You can't take away 17-1, now 17-2. You can't take away the MVP award. You can't take away who he is, 6'5", 6'6", 240, 245 pounds. You have never seen a freak of nature like this under center at all. So it doesn't take that away, and I don't think it takes away from the black quarterback unless you're one of them hooded white folks down south who just want to use an excuse to talk some smack.
Right.
But it took away from him for a little bit because he was riding a good ride with that smile, with that personality, doing the dab. When I saw a tweet of these 6 little white ladies doing dabs, I'm like, yeah, he don't make the crossover. And ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But I don't think it took away from him as a black quarterback because I'm hoping that we're getting away from the conversation of a black and white quarterback instead of him just being a quarterback. But it amazes me how Aaron Rodgers can do, the belt dance when he gets a touchdown and he gets a multi-million-dollar deal with State Farm. Cat does a couple of dabs in the Superman thing, and everybody wants to go crazy. And really no one's talking about it, but after the game, the interview with Peyton Manning, which was all great. I'm glad he got his second ring. But the interview with Peyton Manning, a lot of people don't realize he owns 2 different beer distributors. He mentioned Budweiser, which is the distributor he owns. And legally, the athletes in the NFL are not supposed to promote beer, alcohol products.
That.
He did it on the slide, and I give Peyton credit. That was some brother stuff right there. You just slide it on in there a little bit. I'm going to drink me a lot of Budweiser beer, So, but no one's talking about that. But congratulations to him, though.
Oh my goodness. So I got to take a step back where you can see everyone in the locker room supports Cam, and last year we turned the clock back a year. It didn't seem that didn't seem to be the case with Russell Wilson, because here's the other side of, and I hate to say it, the black quarterback. I mean, they need to just be quarterbacks, but Russell Wilson is different. He's out there. Well, he's not really that much different because Cam is involved with the community. Russell Wilson is involved with the community, but Russell Wilson is seemed, or the perception is he's corporate. Perception is, you ask some of the African-American players, they're like, oh, well, he's corporate or he's acting white. When do we get past that point, CS?
Well, I think there's always going to be inner fighting between us as a people. It's always been that way. It wasn't just the white folks that brought us over here and changed. Some of the brothers over in Africa helped them chain us up. So it's always been that inner fighting. that's going on. As far as Russell's concerned, but see, I see him, with the clean cut look. I see him with the proper answers and things of this manner. But he also did some brother stuff. I could call it a different thing, but we on your show, I'm not going to do that. But he did some brother stuff when his white fiance started going out spending his money and dropping his name. He cut her ass real quick and got with Sierra. So that's some brother stuff right there. So he ain't but so corporate. He came back to his roots and did his thing. But I think, Richard Sherman kind of cleared it up himself, saying that, there was no animosity in the locker room. Somebody, let something out that was a misunderstanding, which can happen. And then, of course, as you know, the media, they take off and run with it.
So you have a unique perspective, CS, because you're out in the West Coast. You're a legend, but you're in San Diego, but you're a Raiders fan because I see you always rocking your Raiders cap.
Damn right.
There were so many discussions about relocation, and after Stan Kroenke basically took his team, bought his land, and said, "Hey, I'm taking these guys on out of here. Legally, I can do it because I had billions of dollars." The situation was different for San Diego and for Oakland, and they're kind of circling the wagon, going back and forth, and public versus private dollars. And what's your take on relocation out there, out west with you?
Sometimes you don't want to say "I told you so" to people, but I'm gonna say, "Damn it, I told you so." About a year and a half ago, when all this started coming up, a lot of people don't realize there was like a little vote in L.A. I don't know whether it was City Council or the Chamber of Commerce, wherever the case may be. They said the number one team that they wanted back in L.A. was the Rams, because the Rams were there. I get that. And the second team they wanted was the Raiders. There was not one vote for the San Diego Chargers. And I said that back in the day. And I told people this past season, you have to be wanted to go somewhere. Don't nobody want these damn lightning strikes. 4-12? What kind of product are you taking anywhere? You can't take that product nowhere. You better stay right where you at and get a stadium taken care of here. Now, on the Chargers, for the Chargers support, I've been here in San Diego going on 16 years. They've been talking about a stadium for 14 years, and they still ain't got it done.
Wow.
So some of the blame is on Spanos as the owners, and some of the blame is on the city council and the mayors, the different mayors here in San Diego. I think now they're going to get a deal done. They have to now because the Chargers have been cleared to go to L.A., with Kroenke and the Rams, but why would you want to go be a stepchild somewhere where you can be the big brother in your own city? It makes no sense. And Dean Spanos, the president of owner of the Chargers, said 25% of his business is in the L.A. market. The hell he talking about? Now, L.A. comes down here to see the Raiders. I heard L.A. fans who are right there, or San Diego Charger fans who are in L.A. said they wouldn't even go to the game in L.A., but they had no problem coming to San Diego to see the Chargers. San Diego and L.A. always have been a brother, stepbrother kind of relationship the whole time I've been here. The Chargers aren't going nowhere. They don't want the Raiders to be in L.A. because, to be honest with you, the Raiders will have a bigger fan base than the Rams do. When the Raiders were there in L.A., they won a championship. So if the Raiders come back to L.A., it's home already. So Kroenke doesn't want Mark Davis and the Raiders there because they're going to be a bigger attraction than the Rams will be. So the Rams will get their deal. They got it already, and Kroenke's going to build a hell of a stadium. It's going to be a Disney amusement park there, second to Jerry's World, even better than Jerry's World. The Raiders will get their deal in Oakland because they belong in Oakland, and San Diego will be right here in San Diego, bullshitting, not doing nothing, and putting a mediocre team on the field, and they'll get their stadium too.
I mean, here's what's crazy, and I understand, or maybe, I don't understand because I'm not a billionaire, but the fact that some of these billionaires are looking for public funding is just incredible to me because I saw it out here on Long Island with the Islanders. So I'm maybe a mile and a half from where the Islanders used to play at Nassau Coliseum. Great. I mean, it was a crappy stadium. It's been around for 42 years, but it was somewhere where I could take my son. We can go, whether it's a wrestling match or this or that, whatever the show was, and we enjoyed ourselves. But we got to the point where we had the opportunity to vote. Hey, your taxes are going to go up $58 extra per year and of course, with tax things only go up. They only increase.
They never go down. That's right.
To fund the stadium. I had to vote no. And now that stadium, the team is in Brooklyn. And I've yet to go to Barclays Center. Nothing against it, but I'm just like, well, hey, this was the team. This was here for 40-plus years, and they couldn't get it right. Politicians, everyone's dirty. I'm still in awe by the fact that these billionaires are asking for public dollars. It's just a total shame.
You got to remember, too, the NFL is a pimp. The NFL is just a multi-billion-dollar business that continues to grow, continues to get bigger. Nothing can put a stain on the NFL. The concussion controversy, which is going to be there, and it's true, the domestic violence controversy, which really we're only talking about a microcosm of the world because NFL players don't make up the entire world. They reflect what's already in the world. Anything that goes on in the NFL is just like a fly on your shoulder. You flick it off, and they keep making money, keep building. And if they ask for something, it is 32 teams in the league. You will be blessed to have – now, you're blessed because you got 2 teams in your area, but you will be blessed to have a team in your city. So when it comes down to asking for this and asking for that, and of course they're contributing some money too, it's going to get done.
No, you're right. You're right. There's so many different topics to cover with you. Hey, so does Goodell? He's had some missteps in the past 18 months or so. Is he still here to stay? Should he be concerned about anything? What's your thoughts on Roger Goodell?
He ain't got nothing to be concerned about when you're making $44 million a year and the owners are paying you to do and say what they want you to do and say. He's good to go. And until he wants to go, like Pete Rozelle, until he wants to go and anoint somebody else, which Pete anointed Roger Goodell, Roger Goodell's going to be right there. Yeah, he's had some missteps in the public, and he's mishandled some things. This is true. But he's not going nowhere because all the owners, and in fact, from my understanding, a good percentage of them support him because basically they pay him. He does what they want him to do, and he does what they tell him to do. That don't get it twisted. You may be the commissioner of the NFL, but you are being paid by the 32 owners of the league. He ain't going nowhere.
Gotcha. Real quick question on Peyton Manning, his next steps. Do you think getting pimped out, it seems like there's pieces of tape, duct tape holding him together. But do you think you see him in some uniform next season, or do you see him as someone's team president, or do you see him as, on NBC or the 4-letter network, or where do you see?
He might make an appearance or two on TV, but I don't think his personality is one that lends to be. It's nothing against him. He's just dry. He does have a dry sense of humor. It comes across sometimes when he gets on Saturday Night Live, and it can be funny. I've seen some of the clips on YouTube. It could be funny. But as far as an analyst is concerned, or a color analyst, he reminds me of Joe Montana. Joe Montana took a stab at it, and he was terrible. So then he just went off and took care of his businesses. Peyton, he's invested a lot in different businesses. He got about 17 million Papa John's there in the Colorado area. And, he got the beer distributors, and he got some other stuff going on. Nationwide's got him on their hook. But I think he's done. I think he knows he's done. He's even hinted to it to a couple of people. And it's basically a Hollywood story. I mean, nobody expected him to come back this year. And then, of course, he sat out for 7 or 8 games. And even when he sat out for 7 or 8 games, he still led the league in interceptions. He just can't do what he used to do. And you don't want to see somebody continue to play when your body will not do what your mind wants it to do. He's done, and he had a great story going out on the Super Bowl championship win, just like his president and CEO, John Elway. And they did it for their owner, Pat Bowlen, which was another, kind of tear-jerker, heart-jerker story because, Pat did it for John when John won. Now John did it for Pat when he's unfortunately got old time. I was going to say old timers. That's what my uncle calls it, old timers. And not really in good health. But it's a good Hollywood story. Gotcha. So he's done.
Gotcha. Well, I want to spend the final couple minutes on what's going on with the legendary CS Keys. I love listening to the show. I would always tune in on Saturdays. I know you're retooling it and things like that. I just got to put it out there because I'm openly petitioning to get you on this network. But
well, I appreciate it, buddy. I really do.
I know there has to be some discussions to go behind the scenes, but what's going on in your world? What's happening with you?
I appreciate that comment, man. You and my mom said it, so that's two people. But the show went on a little hiatus in August, and we were basically putting some things together. Sponsorship is one of the big hang-ups, so, until we get all that taken care of. But we will be back on there. I'm going to be like Ray Charles. I'm going to make it do what it do, baby.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, any quick thoughts on the one NBA question I'm going to ask you? Mm-hmm. I mean, the entire world is in love with Steph Curry, and everyone is now a Golden State Warrior fan. Will they meet or break that 72-10 record from the Chicago Bulls?
Oh, man, that's a good question, Ted, because it has kind of got me torn, because I love what Steve Kerr has done with that team, a la Jackson, because that was Mark Jackson's team. And,
yes.
And I got to say, even Luke Walton has done a great job, sitting in for Steve Kerr. But that's Mark Jackson's team. But Steve Kerr's there, so he's done a great job. They got a championship. Glad for the folks in the Oakland area, because it's been so long. I'm talking about decades and decades. And everybody, yes, Stephen Curry is he's the love of everybody right now. And as he should be. That boy is balling. That boy is balling, man. I see him before the game shooting stuff in the tunnel going straight net. I see him during the game just rising up on people and just boom, straight net. Walking down, he'll shoot it and turn around and start walking, not even knowing that's going in, but it went in. But Steph is the man, and the Warriors are doing what they got to do. But being a Michael Jordan fan, being a fan of that era and watching that team do what they did, if it happens, it happens. But I would have to, if you're going to put my feet to the fire, I'm going to say no, it's not going to happen. I'll let the Bulls hang on to that record, but the Warriors will still be up in the talk of one of the greatest teams at this point. They may, I think they're going to fall short. They're not going to get that record, but they'll be close to it.
Hey, I want to make this one last statement for you. The one last statement is David Blatt was kicked to the curb, and LeBron James knew nothing about it. He knew nothing at all, CS. And I wish I had the WAV file for the X-Files music, because real quickly, what was your thoughts on David Blatt?
If you think LeBron didn't know what the hell was going on, or if you think he wasn't consulted about it, then you know what? I got some land to sell you in Long Island that's near a swamp. Let me tell you something right now. LeBron never wanted Blatt there. He never had no head coaching experience. Blatt didn't take them to the finals. LeBron took them to the finals. When you look at some of that footage of him pushing Blatt away and changing, and he even said himself he would change plays. He didn't want him there. Everybody likes Tyronn Lue, especially LeBron. And Tyronn was on the come up anyway. Now, some people or some coaches or whatever will, kind of look at him in a negative way because the route that he took to get it. But then again, the players wanted him, and he is a good up-and-coming head coach. But if you think that LeBron had nothing to do with Blatt getting pushed out of there, man, please. He knew everything going on.
CS, I want to give you a round of applause.
I always enjoy it, my man. Anytime you need me, just give me a call. I appreciate you.
No doubt. Listen, tell us best ways to get in contact with you via social media.
Oh, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Same address, @CS Show. Very simple.
Gotcha. CS, we're definitely going to be talking offline because, like I said, there's a spot on this network waiting for you. We need you. You're the legend.
We're going to keep the conversation open, and I better see my Twitter and Instagram followers rise up after I get off your show.
You got it, brother. Take care.
You got it, Ted. Thank you.
And that was C.S. Keys. We covered the Super Bowl. We covered relocation. We covered Cam Newton. We talked a little race. I'm sorry, folks. We had to talk race. We did. Okay. I'm really not sorry because, hey, it's a discussion that has to go on. But with that, before we bring our last but not least, the lovely Rosalyn Ross on the show, we've got to take a quick break. I've got to plug our good friends and sponsors of the show, Audible. And I also have my Black History Month shout out. I'm going to play that again for the second hour right now. So we got a Black History Month, our shout out, and then we're going to play an Audible promo, and then the next voice you'll hear after mine will be Rosalyn Ross.
Check this out. This is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents, and we wanted to let you know about Black History Month. February is Black History Month, but we like to say every single month is Black History Month. We should recognize the rich culture and heritage of Black people, and although the battles have not been won yet, we should be proud to take some time out this month to explore the powerful and victorious lineage of our people. That's right, so don't be a vulture and learn about your culture. Late Night Parents salutes the history of Black people and the history that we have yet to make. That's right, and it's not a mistake. Now back to the live show.
Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook of your choice and a free 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/late-night-parents and choose from over 180,000 audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/late-night-parents. That's audibletrial.com/late-night-parents and get started today. Why Audible? Audible content includes more than 180,000 audio programs from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, entertainers, magazine and newspaper publishers, and business information providers. That's audibletrials.com/late-night-parents.
And we are back. We're live. This is the last segment number 4 of the show or the podcast for Late Night Parents. I am Ted Hicks, once again coming to you, and we want to thank everyone that was on the show previously. Various, the guests, they vary from week to week. Want to thank all the PR teams that help us out each week with offering up inventors and authors and people that just, parents, dads, moms, people that want to talk about, teachers, lawyers, doctors. And every once in a while we have a startup CEO or a tech CEO from Silicon Valley. And, of course, the people that bring their products here or send them to my home to test out their products and write a review about it. So we appreciate you guys. But without further ado, there was no PR person that was able to get this star. This is the A-list star that we have on the line right now. I hope she's smiling. Roz, how you doing?
I'm definitely smiling. You are too kind. I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. In a few days, it's Valentine's Day. I got to put you, you're a friend to the room, a friend to our listeners, the people that go to the Facebook page. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, Roz, tell us, who you are and everything. Everyone knows. Roz, got to ask you. What, and I got to put you on the spot. So right out the gate, we're not talking NBA or anything else like that. What did you tell hubby to get you for Valentine's Day? Or did you have to tell him? And, so what are your expectations for Valentine's Day?
Honestly, I didn't tell. I just told him I hate to be this person, but I don't care really. This isn't one of my days. You know what I mean? I'll be honest and say I hope that, he thinks of something very minor and easy just to acknowledge the day, I guess, and I'll do the same for him. But, we try not to put a lot of pressure on ourselves for Valentine's Day just because such a big deal is made out of it. And, that kind of pressure, along with all the other stuff that you have to deal with, is unnecessary. So we'll probably go and hold down a bar somewhere, like go and hang out and spend several hours laughing with other couples at a bar and eat good and have a good night. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Perfect. You probably made all the
easy
dads.
like Sunday morning. Easy stuff.
you probably made all the dads are just smiling right now. The dads that are going to listen to this tomorrow. To most of our archive
don't
listeners.
take my advice now. I'm not giving out advice. That's not advice because I don't know. Some, these women work hard and they do a great job holding down the fort and taking care of families. So some of us would like a little more. It just so happens that I feel loved every day, and I like to make it easy. Now, if you have this conversation with me in August around my birthday and ask me what I have requested, it'll probably be a little bit longer of a list. But this one, we're going to take it easy.
Okay. That's fair. And I got to tell you, I'm talking low because my wife is in the next room. And she put on the refrigerator a Burberry jacket, like a promo. Nice. So it actually came in yesterday. So I hid it in my closet.
Good.
I hid it in the closet, and I said, "Oh, and trust me, she better wear this from now until summertime.
I'm sure
every day."
I'm sure it can never go out of style, right? It has to be in style every season.
Oh my goodness! I gotta. So from switching to Valentine, and what you just said was so profound. I got to tell you because I'm thinking if you are with your significant other. Yes, Valentine's Day is something, but all during the year, it's kind of like what I tell my kids. I'm like, every day is Christmas for you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like I programmed them to the point where my 14-year-old says, well, hey, if I want something, all I got to do is ask dad or mom, and it just magically appears. And I'm like, well, it just doesn't magically appear.
Exactly. Well, and I'm sure you would. The one thing that I would caution people against, Ted, and I'm sure you agree with me here, is this sort of you want something, but you don't want to articulate it at all, right? And you want to put your significant other, your spouse, through this whole game of trying to figure it out, and that puts a lot of pressure on them. So whether you go big or small with the gift, I would just say be willing to – nobody can read your mind, you know what I mean? So be willing to give some hints or something, but don't say, well, you ought to know what I want, and then you get mad when it's the wrong thing.
Right. I got to tell you, I got to switch subjects, and I got to be truthful with you. And I'm not happy about this, Roz.
Okay.
You came on the podcast last year, and we were talking fitness and everything else like that. Don't you know by March I canceled my gym membership, and it was just like, oh, the heck with this.
No. Well, what did you have? How is it going this year? Did you start this year? Tell me the truth.
I have not started, but I'm thinking about starting right in the middle of the beer and the wings that I was consuming watching the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
But I want to let you know, because I have you down here we're going to mention something about fitness. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to be truthful and tell you that, I told them, you know what, guys? This worked out well in January of 15, and I was going, and come February 1, it was just like, boo, 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 boo. I just stopped playing.
Well, and that's the thing. It's really tricky. You have to be really, really, really patient with yourself when you're trying to start a fitness regimen. Because it's really easy to get irritated and decide you're going to give up half the way, part of the way through. So you have to be patient, and you have to be honest about what you can really do, because people get so hyped up, especially at the beginning of the year, especially all this stuff about summer bodies are created in the winter. So January is high time for people to start obsessing about getting in shape. And so what happens is people normally overcommit fitness in their schedule. Like a woman just came to one of my classes 2 Sundays ago, and she's like, I've decided you're going to be my 6th workout day of the week. Like I'm going to do a workout for you, and it'll be my. And I'm just sitting there looking at her like, by March, you'll probably be out of the gym completely. Nobody is going to work out 6 days a week unless they are actually someone who teaches fitness classes, right? Or someone who's going to they're in a weightlifting, some sort of weightlifting contest. Most regular people people who work jobs, people who have families, most of us don't have time to get an hour, like to go to a gym, do an hour's workout, and then drive home from the gym. So that might be, in most cases, that could be an hour, 15, hour and 30 minutes total round trip. Most of us have a hard time fitting that in their schedule 6 days a week. So be reasonable with your fitness plans. I will say that in honor of Ted, who abandoned his last year and who's planning for his new year. So you're off the hook, though. You're off the hook. Just plan to be reasonable and say, can I do this 2 days a week? Can I do it 3 days a week maybe? And then see what happens.
Right. No, I think that's fair. Because I live on Long Island, but I work in downtown by the World Trade Center. So giving that the proximity is about maybe 50 or so miles. And I got to tell you, I commute. So I go from Long Island Railroad to Subway, and then I walk 3 or 4 blocks. And they're quick blocks, so it's like a brisk walk. But I got to tell you, my commute is upward of 3 hours to about 3 hours and 20 minutes a day.
I'm sure. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
That's just the commute. So, and this is not my excuse, but it's my excuse. So by the time I get home, I'm like, man, I'm tired.
Exactly.
I don't want to deal with this. But I know, like you said, you got to go at least 3 times a day. And, Roz, I got to do something. I'm going to get motivated. You have motivated me tonight. I'm going to do it.
I like to help put people's minds at ease that, you know what, you don't have to go hammer whammer. You know what I mean? You don't have to say I'm going to do this 6 days and then as soon as you miss a day, you're disappointed, and then you say, forget the whole thing. No, just ease your way into it. Be patient and ease your way into it. And then then you can work it into an actual routine. But when you come out of the gate and you're like, yes, you're so fired up and you think you're going to be able to work out 7 days a week, 6 days a week, no way that's happening. No way.
Not at all.
Not unless you become a bodybuilder, and you have to do it. And then you probably won't have a job, and then you can do it all day. But most people can't work out all day.
Right, and like exactly. I said, if you're not working or you have that flexibility where you have that time, that heck, you have no excuse. But I mean, you really do have no excuse overall. But hey, I got to ask you a question, and I'm still talking about it. The podcast you, G. Stelio, and EJ had last Friday had me in stitches at 1 o'clock in the morning. So did not want you to think I was just like a total psycho, but I'm listening to the podcast because I was up and I was doing things. I had just came in and I just turned it on and I was sitting and standing there laughing. You guys,
those guys are crazy.
And
we're crazy when we get together.
Oh my goodness! But my next question for you is, what are you binge watching? Like, for someone that's as busy as you are, I'm guessing you don't have the time to sit and watch a specific show when the specific show is programmed to come on. What's in your queue right now?
You know what? I just I'm trying to think of what we just finished up or what I just started. I just started a very weird little show on TBS, which is called Angie Tribeca. Are you familiar with the show at all? Dion
Not
Cole
at all.
is in it, the guy who used to be on Dion Cole is in it, the guy who used to be on Blackish. In fact, he left Blackish because of this show. And And why can't I think of Rashida Jones, who was on Community and who was on The Office. But she's the lead person.
Yes.
And it's a comedy show done in the vein of, it's like a comedy cop series done in the vein of like those old Naked Gun movies, an Airplane, those that just over the top, crazy silliness, dumb jokes. And it's done just like that. And actually, TBS released it as a binge. Like, they actually gave you 24 hours of the show, showed you every single episode in one day. And I didn't watch it that day, of course, but I actually just recently read some reviews on it and decided to start watching it. So I just started watching it this week, and it's not for everybody at all because it's not real highbrow comedy. It's like the dumbest thing ever. But it's so dumb that after like 3 or 4 of those dumb jokes back to back, you're laughing uncontrollably because you're just like, what the heck am I watching? So far I've enjoyed it. But I know you heard us talking about this on the podcast, which is how amazing regular, I don't want to say regular TV, but how amazing TV has become. You used to we used to obsess about movies all the time, but network television, some of these networks, FX, TBS, then on cable, Showtime, HBO, these folks have really stepped up their game with their programming,
yes,
which,
they have.
for my other job, which is an actress, to see all this opportunity to be on shows and to be a part of these casts is really cool. But just in general, it's like quality TV is back, so hopefully it's around for a little while. I enjoyed a lot of stuff this year that I actually didn't have to binge watch. I enjoyed Fargo. We were talking about this O.J. Simpson trial show,
right?
Which was kind of weird last night. The second episode came on last night, but so far it's pretty good. One of the things I was saying on the podcast is there's no way, like American Horror Story, my husband and I tried to binge watch that, and the show is so, like, very scary and intense that literally after we watched the whole season and tried to watch, like, a half of another, and, woke up the next morning looking like, okay, is there going to be a demon outside of our house? I mean, it's just that seriously, it's not really scary, but it's like, what the heck is happening? Like, is there an alternate universe where all of these bad things happen all day, every day? And hopefully I didn't fall into that place when I went to sleep. So we actually abandoned that show, and I hate it because it was really good, but there's just no way to binge watch it because it's too much coming at you all back to back at one time.
Gotcha. Hey, I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about the NBA. I want to talk a little bit about the All-Star game. You know what? We won't even talk about the All-Star game. I just want to bring up one NBA topic for you.
Yeah.
That mess that's going on in New York. Well, the Fisher King is gone. Derek Fisher. To me, it was a big joke. The organization itself is a big joke. Carmelo with, knee problems that we knew that problems existed from way back when. The fact that he can barely play a regular game, but he's going to, be showboating in the All-Star game. What is your take on this?
Well, the Derek Fisher hire to me was, a strange hire, and it was actually a hire that exposed my hypocrisy, right? Because I'm always saying how these organizations love to recycle these old coaches, most of whom, there's not a diverse crowd of them, right? It's getting better. Of course, certainly in the NBA it's much better, but usually when they recycle a guy, he's, there's no diversity there, and it's a guy that really never really did anything, never won a championship. He's just getting another shot. Then when they make a hire like a Derek Fisher or a Tyronn Lue, then I'm complaining because I think they need somebody with more experience. But certainly with a franchise like the Knicks, I would think that that's still a very high profile organization in the league. It's a legacy organization. I thought the hire should have been somebody who probably would have been more prepared to handle the media and more prepared to handle, any craziness that would happen, which actually Derek Fisher was a part of some craziness that happened. So, which, we're a kindred spirits in that because it happened with one of the guys down here for the Grizzlies, Matt Barnes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Crazy Matt Barnes.
Crazy Matt Barnes who is unapologetically crazy. But, one of the things that came out over the last week is from Wojo over at Yahoo. He mentioned in a piece how that kind of sealed the deal with Derek Fisher because he was actually acting like a player. He flies out to visit his girlfriend in the middle of training camp, gets into a fisticuff, basically, comes back, miss it, and he doesn't get back in time to coach his team in training camp. I mean, these are things that you expect out of your players. You don't expect it out of a coach. And I would imagine he lost teams' respect after that. It's that's my highbrow analysis. My lowbrow analysis is, how do you trust a dude that's trying to sleep with one of his friends' exes? Like, how do you respect that guy? And then when he's not acting any more like an adult than you are, and you're supposed to be reporting to him, and he's supposed to be leading you and guiding you, it just seemed like it was a disaster on the horizon. It turned out to be that. Now I've read that that Phil Jackson is really going to try to make his way out of the organization as well, and let it be great on its own without him. And that probably, Ted, is the moment when I'm going to say it's a big, heaping, whopping mess. Right now it just feels like you need a coach, you need somebody that's going to stabilize the organization. You got a great situation for Porzingis. Carmelo is aging. We knew it was going to happen. It's hard for him to recover from all these injuries. But as far as the team dynamics and what can happen, I really don't feel like you're that far away, especially in the Eastern Conference. But if this whole hoopla behind hiring Phil Jackson then crashes and burns, then it's going to be a problem because he hired Derek Fisher. He wanted to install the triangle offense. And so now your organization will have spent the last 2 years trying to do all the things that Phil wanted, and then he'll be gone. And that's going to suck royally. So, I hope that he doesn't leave you guys high and dry because that, to me, is going to be the signal that things are really, really, really out of control. But right now I'm like, okay, if you get a pretty good coach and you can add maybe a couple of pieces, you can look pretty much like a stable, team that's on the rise in the East. But you can't do it when your coach doesn't have any respect from his team, and that's the impression I got from what Wojo said, and just from my own personal opinion. How do you respect a guy that ends up in a situation like that?
Right. Hey, I got to ask you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, Roz, but of course I mean to put you on the spot. When does Becky Hammond get a full-time coaching position with the NBA?
I don't know. You mean and I assume you mean a full-time head coaching position, right?
Head coach position.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't know if we're that far along. I just got to be honest with you. I'm not sure that we are that far along. Those guys are so think about what just happened with Derek Fisher, right? Think about how fragile it is to maintain the respect of these grown men. I just don't know that we're there yet as it relates to her getting a head coaching job. I don't know that people have the confidence that that's a move that needs to be made. But I like that she's in the position. She's already broken one barrier, and I like that she's in the position to go further and to open the doors, for more female head coaching opportunities to happen in the NBA. And I just saw a note where a woman was hired as a football coach down in Miami. So you're starting to find that type of progression, and you just hope it continues. I mean, fingers crossed. The one thing that is very intriguing about the NBA opportunities is the fact that there's the WNBA still, right? So a lot of times you hear women aspiring to be a head coach in the NBA, which sometimes feels to me that submissive to the WNBA. You know what I mean? Like, I remember when Brittany Griner was getting ready to come out, she talked a lot about being drafted in the NBA, and I'm like, well, you're going to be the number one pick in the WNBA, so don't dismiss that opportunity It's like we're still trying to catch up with the boys. So we have to be aware of that and be cognizant of that. But I'm glad someone's finally in a position to break through.
Roz, we have slightly over 4 minutes, and I gotta really get up to speed with you and find out what's going on in the world of Rosalyn Ross.
Well, when I get off the phone with you, I gotta go and get ready. I have an audition tomorrow for a series that's shooting here in Memphis in mid-March. That's actually going to tell the story of the early days of Sun Studios, where Elvis started and the whole thing. I mean, Memphis has got a very rich Memphis tradition. So I'm looking forward to that. I knew that there was going to be a show shooting here, and it's one of those things where as an actress you want to be a part of whatever's coming to town, not always having to leave town to find stuff. So I'm excited about this audition tomorrow, so I'm going to spend some more time getting ready for that. Then actually tomorrow I have a luncheon where I'm going to get a chance to meet Nancy Kerrigan, which is very cool.
Okay.
Open is going on this week, and she'll be here, and she's a speaker at that luncheon, which it's an interesting correlation, but they made it happen, so I'm looking forward to it. But just in general, this is already starting out as a year that seems like it'll be a big step in my acting career, so I'm welcoming that and really looking forward to that. And then hopefully I can get back in my NBA writing groove after All-Star weekend, so after this weekend. And I can already tell you probably what's going to be on deck is my concern over these Memphis Grizzlies and Marc Gasol being out indefinitely.
Oh, my goodness.
Because that is a huge blow to any plans that we thought we had of making the playoffs. So that'll probably be my debut piece on the other side of All-Star weekend. So, same old teaching yoga and acting and hoping to take everything up another level in 2016. I did want to say just one thing, though. I just saw this note. I just saw a note that Monty Williams' wife died. Monty Williams, the former head coach of the Pelicans, and I can't remember whose staff he's on now. But his wife was killed in a car accident. My goodness. And they've got 5 children.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
So you'll probably read more about that when we get off the phone. But I saw that just when I was getting ready to join you. So definitely prayers out to his family and friends around the league. That is a tough loss. Yeah.
Really, really tough. Oh, my goodness. Roz, tell us best ways to get in contact with you, all the places, the various places that you're writing at, and, where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at @R_Trinity. So please come give me a follow. I love interacting with the new folks, getting some new blood in the sports conversation. And usually all of my work, you can find it there. I'm writing fitness pieces over at Rolling Out, and still doing most of my sports writing for the Sports Fan Journal. And some of those pieces pop up on Fox and on Yardbarker as well. So check me out on Twitter, and you can stay up to date with that stuff. And then follow me on Instagram. A lot of times I post my commercials or any ads that I've done on there, so people can have an opportunity to see that stuff as well. So R_Trinity in both places. And Ted, thanks so much. I always love when I get a chance to chat with you. One of the best hosts that I get to interact with, and I really appreciate your professionalism. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Roz, thank you for joining us. We got about 30 seconds left, but we want to close it out by giving you a round of applause. Thank you so much, Roz. We love you. And that was Rosalyn Ross who joined us. So just want to give a quick rundown. 15 seconds ago, the CEO and president of SalonPas was on to join us, Dan Soberberg, CS Keys, and, of course, the lovely Rosalyn Ross. We're out of here. All the best. We'll see you next week.